guys, Celestia here, and I thought today I would be doing something a little different. I was scrolling through the depths of the cesspool that is Twitter, and ended up seeing a post that definitely made me feel old. The post was related to Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire turning 21 this year, and I'd like to share my experience with the game. Uh, Not many know this, but well, I mean, probably a little obvious, but I didn't have many friends growing up. To this day, I only have 3 or 4 that I talk to IRL. Everybody else is online. But back in my youth, I used to live down in Florida, and this was back in early 2005, 2006, when Pokemon Fever was still in its peak, probably beginning to come down from the surge in the late 90s, early 2000s, and Generation 3 was rampant everywhere. And I remember getting this copy of Pokemon Sapphire. I mean, it hadn't been the first time I played Pokemon. I do recall at one point I did play Yellow when I was really young, but at this point I didn't remember it. I did watch the anime. My dad introduced me to it when I was really young. He was obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. I didn't like it. I still don't. I don't really get why people like it, but they like it, so it's fine. Definitely not my cup of tea, but I remember right after Dragon Ball Z ended, a new episode of Pokemon would air, and I was always excited to see it. So finding out that this anime that I used to watch had a game, well, it made me excited, of course. So here I am, and I get my Game Boy Advance SP, Christmas 2004. The day after was the huge tsunami that happened down in, I believe it was Indonesia? Thailand. It was in Thailand. Yeah, right day after that happened. So that's always ingrained in my mind, but I remember getting a Dragon Ball Z game with it that I didn't like, but I didn't get Sapphire until I moved down to Florida, and as somebody who's young and around like the age of 9 or 10, leaving the school that you used to go to and finding yourself in this new, bigger school with kids that you don't know, it's nerve-wracking, I'll say. Not knowing anybody, not knowing what to even talk about. It was a big new world, I guess, and it always felt kind of lonely, if I'm being honest, just having nobody to talk to. But I guess Pokemon was the unifying force, because everybody that I met, voice crack, Jesus, everybody that I met down there, they really liked Pokemon, so we always had something to talk about. And for me, Sapphire was that little piece of getting brand new friends. We would always play our Game Boys beneath the jungle gym, hidden behind a sign so that the teachers didn't notice. My 5th grade teacher was an absolute bitch. If she saw anything Pokemon related, she would just take it away from you. It was terrible. I do remember this kid that I used to know in the classroom across from me got his Ruby and Sapphire guidebook taken away, and she didn't give it back for months. I think he ended up getting it back at the end of 5th grade, so there's that. Yeah. We used to link up Game Boys and battle beneath the jungle gym, always building little crazy teams and just running around. I don't even remember how many times I restarted this game. I do remember taking my Game Boy to church one time, and let me tell you, that's a big mistake. That is a big no-no. For whatever reason, people in church do not like Pokemon. They think it's satanic, even though it's just a fun little game about collecting creatures and battling. Well, I guess it's animal cruelty if you really get down to the nitty-gritty. I know PETA certainly thinks so. With those stupid Flash games that they released back in 2012. That shit was hilarious. But regardless of that, I remember getting quite the earful from the pastor because my cousin decided to bring my Pokemon books to church instead of the Holy Bible, and that was a debacle. I remember my grandma yelling at the pastor, telling him that I could play whatever I wanted and it wasn't hurting anybody. That was the last time I brought Sapphire with me to the church, that's for sure. I know one of my younger cousins ended up getting yelled at by her dad because she was watching me play Pokemon after church, and we'd usually just leave after service, but there were times where we would stay there for about an hour or so. I know Sunday school was a thing. Hardly remember that. But yeah, after that was done and it was just my family, the pastor, and my cousins, I would just hang out by the entrance of the church and just sit there and play Pokemon. And she got in trouble because she was watching over my shoulder, and I got yelled at that day too for whatever reason. But yeah, another fond memory that I had was this time that I believe it was the fifth grade class. I know they went on this trip to Disney and Universal. They usually did those for kids that were able to pay, and I couldn't pay it because, you know, $500 was pretty steep for a field trip back in that day. I remember them going to St. Augustine. I think they were gonna look at some of the castles from back in the colonial era, and I always regret not going to a place like that, but I do remember that all the kids that weren't able to go were gathered up in one classroom, and we'd watch Polar Express and all these other kid movies, despite it not being Christmas. I remember it was like April or so, and we would play Pokemon over there, and there was like a big group of us just shooting the shit, catching Pokemon, and just enjoying ourselves. There was this other trip when we went to Tampa to the baseball stadium because they were releasing a weather balloon, and I recall playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team for the first time, and that game was fun, but you know, I couldn't afford games back in the day. Sapphire was the only one that I could bring along with me. That is until my uncle gave me $100 for my 11th birthday, and I ended up getting a copy of Pokemon Emerald, which I still own to this day. My original Sapphire sadly ate the shit a long time ago, and the one that I have now is the Japanese version because it was much cheaper to get, but you know, there are emulators out there, and the High Seas, which are currently behind me. But yeah, had a lot of good times with Sapphire. Remember the Braille puzzle to get the Reggies. I remember having to go to the library and get a book on Braille just so I can learn the fucking alphabet, just to unlock these really cool looking golems that were spread out all across the Hoenn region, and finding those legendary Pokemon was always worth it. I remember climbing up Spear Pillar, finding Rayquaza, and like seeing this giant dragon just resting there, and thinking that it was so fucking cool that it was here the whole time. But I wasn't able to catch it before the Pokemon League when I needed it the most. Of course, anybody who's played Emerald will know that you can steamroll through the Pokemon League with Rayquaza because you can catch it before and not after, like in Ruby and Sapphire. The one thing that I never really cared for, of course, was the Battle Tower, but these days you can end up glitching shiny Pokemon out of it, which is pretty fun. Of course, you'd have to sacrifice your Latios and Latias for that. And one day I will do it, but that's not a run that I'm looking forward to. I do enjoy shiny Pokemon, but not that much. Actually, my first shiny was an Emerald. It was a Poochyena, which it was the uncatchable one, but I did reclaim it when going through Petalburg Woods. I ended up catching an actual one, and I still have that in my Emerald to this day, but my DS decided it was a good time to die after 15 years, and since I don't know how to solder, I can't really change it. I know it's a fuse that blew out. These consoles probably weren't built to last this long, so a lot of them are probably dying, in the process of dying, or already dead. But yeah, I have fond memories of making berries in the Pokeblock machine. We'd always turn up the volume in the middle of a lesson just to piss the teacher off. We'd trade Pokemon cards in the bathroom, and I recall trading away the original Pokédex, like the little machine that you get, and I traded that for a Suicune card and a Steelix card, which I don't think I have, but I did end up setting down Sapphire when Leaf Green and Fire Red came out, and I spent way too much time on Leaf Green, I'll admit. Probably the Gen 3 game that I spent the most time in. Of course, nothing beats Emerald. I did try to get all the symbols on that one, but, you know, that game can be quite challenging if you're not ready for it. Yeah, after that, we ended up parting ways, me and my friends. I did go to middle school for a short period of time down in Florida, but I ended up leaving, and, well, I ended up transferring schools again, and in the new one, not a lot of people I knew liked Pokemon by this point. Ended up getting bullied a lot. I remember this one kid asking me if I liked to have sexual intercourse with Pikachu whenever I went home, and, you know, fucking kids. Middle school sucked. I mean, it was a good time, but it wasn't as bad as high school, I guess. Yeah, usually just stuck to my friend group. Obviously, when I made new friends here, we just stuck together. Only a couple of them played Pokemon, but regardless of that, we carried on, and I guess life is life. Now, obviously, none of us live together anymore. They've all left, started their own lives, and we still keep in contact, but, you know. Sapphire will always be that one game for me that brings me back to my childhood, of course. It isn't the one that ended up stealing my heart in the Pokemon series. That award goes to Black and White. It will always be with Black and White, and maybe in the future I'll do like a retrospective or something. I know those have been done to death in the past, but hey, maybe a fresh new take on the series will interest some of you. I know I will be replaying Pokemon White at some point because I am working on a story that involves those events. If you didn't know, I do write on fanfiction from time to time, and this will be the first Pokemon story since like 2018 that I'm doing, so that'll be fun. But yeah, these are pretty much a bunch of stories and things about my experience with Sapphire and Pokemon in general. I hope it interested you, and if it did, well, hey, leave a like, subscribe if you want to, leave a comment. Hey, why not say what your favorite game is? If you say anything other than Black or White, you are automatically wrong. And if you hate Gen 6, you are also wrong, because Gen 6 is actually not that bad, even though it was unfinished. Screw you, Game Freak, for never giving us AZ's Floette. We'll always remember that. All of us still have it in our box, cheated, never going to Pokemon Home, but hey, maybe we'll get it in Pokemon Legends, AZ, or whatever it's called. Still wasn't expecting a Kalos game to be announced this year. Was expecting another chibi-fied, faithful release of Black and White, but color me surprised. I'm one of the many that doesn't want Game Freak to touch this game at all, so it better stay that way. Yeah, that's about it. 21 years of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Still can't believe when the remakes came around, IGN had the balls to say that this game had too much water. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They really don't. If you're asking me, there's not enough water in Hoenn. There's too much sunlight. Down with Team Magma. Kyogre is the superior. Let's flood the world. Take care of the oceans. Maybe reduce the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Clean the beach. Some other shit. Oh, protect the sea bunnies. I recently discovered sea bunnies, and they're the most adorable little sea creatures ever to exist, and I'm glad that I discovered them because they're adorable, and I want to protect the sea. That's all about it, really. Stay hydrated, stay kind, be respectful, don't be a racist, no politics, don't be a piece of shit, don't throw your plastic bottles in the water, don't throw your straws in the water either, protect the turtles. That's about it. I need to stop saying so goddamn much. Yeah, that's about it. See ya.